With the first pick in the 2024 NFL Draft.
Welcome back into the Daft on Draft podcast. I am your co-host, Corey Kinnan, again, alongside James Foster here. Dalton's still taking a little sabbatical as he gets his life back this side of the Atlantic Ocean. So James is filling in for us once again. And today we're moving on to tight ends, man. We're talking about the 5 bigger tight ends in this class. And I'm very excited to get in. If you like a tight end that's kind of well-rounded and can block, then this probably isn't the class for you. But if you like a good flex tight end that can make plays down the field, then this is the class for you. So it's going to be a fun one to get into. But James, before we do that, welcome back to the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm great, man. You said the 5 bigger tight ends. That is not literal. Not in the literal sense. I mean, are there any of these 5 guys that we're going to talk about that you would classify as like a Y inline blocker at all?
No.
Yeah. So it's pure just like, if you're, I would say if you were one of the 10 worst offenses in the NFL, this is like not really where you should be shopping. This is kind of like complementary piece to an already, good offense, and just kind of a receiving weapon is kind of the style of player that I'm seeing so far.
Yeah, this is your Sam LaPorta to the Detroit Lions kind of situation here that we're talking about this year. So, but let's dive in. We got 5 names to cover here, and again, James and I we've gone through the list, and these are probably in our opinion, the best 5 tight ends. Again, that can change if one of these back end guys like really surprises us. But let's start out with the top. And I've done an inside the film room on him up on the Substack. So if you're a paid subscriber, you can go check out that video content. But it's Purdue transfer to Ohio State tight end Max Klare. To me, this is the best tight end in the class. Again, none of these guys are blockers. With Klare, though, there's no fear of being ragdolled from him. He's like, well, if you're going to ragdoll me, then I'm at least doing my job. I'm at least like getting in your way. Like I see the effort there with Klare as a blocker, and he knows where to kind of throw his body. He knows where to put his body at the end of the day. But again, none of these 5 tight ends that we're talking about are going to make their money blocking. But I do kind of just like, okay, yeah, Klare can at least, he's going to get thrown out of the club, but like he'll go out there and scrap. He'll try to fight you.
Yeah, I would kind of split these sorts of tight ends into like 3 tiers of blocking. There's the rare, I think there is one guy on this list that is like truly a killer as a run blocker. It's just, like you said, not going to be where he makes his money in the NFL. I think Klare's kind of in that second tier where he does his job, gets in the way, doesn't really project as a great inline blocker in the NFL, but for what you're going to have to ask him to do as far as like move blocking and stuff, I think he can get the job done. And then there's a few guys that just really like, we're not here to play blocking is basically their approach. But yeah, I think Klare's firmly in that second tier. You're still really, it's the speed. It's the ability to separate on the vertical and horizontal plane that is really most valuable with Klare. And I think he is probably the best seam stretcher. I mean, it's not even stretching the seam. It's like when you're wrapping a Christmas present and you hit that crease on the wrapping paper with the scissors, like he is just tearing through Big Ten defenses. Mm-hmm. And it's really, it's kind of jarring to watch Purdue's team last year, because it's like one of the worst Power 5 college football teams you'll ever see. And then just 2 cold white boys on both sides of the ball with him and Dylan Thiemann. So yeah, I really enjoyed watching Max Klare. Excited to see him in a much better offense this year.
Yeah, Ohio State hasn't been great at utilizing tight ends. We'll get to one of those tight ends tomorrow that just looks like, all right, see you out as well. We'll talk about one of those tight ends, but I also just think they haven't had like a top end tight end to really feature. And again, outside of Jeremiah Smith, like we've talked about Carnell Tate on this podcast a little bit, like I don't know if Carnell Tate's, I mean, he can always develop under Brian Hartline, but like I think Max Klare is going to fit in right here, and he might be their number 2 wide receiver, like their number 2 pass catcher, I should say, entering the season, because I think he's that good. And outside of Jeremiah Smith, might be that next guy. Like when I watch Max Klare, like One, I don't see any false steps off the line of scrimmage, and he's an easy accelerator. He can get to 0 and 100 and step on your toes in an instant. I think
there's that play where he burnt the pursuit angle against Penn State. Did you see that game for the touchdown? Yes. That's the play that just sticks out in my mind, where he can gear up so quickly and like beat, I don't know if it was a DB or a linebacker, but beat him to the edge from a standstill.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got vertical juice. He's even a little creative after the catch. Again, he can break those angles as well. What I think this is a kind of a two-part thing here. His spatial awareness is so great, and I mean that both by his ability to stem and leverage routes, and then immediately like fluid hips and snap out of those and understand where he should be stemming, but also in zone coverage, like. Yeah. He is such a good green grass hunter, like such a great green grass hunter. Ability to work back to his quarterback on the scramble drill, but like he is the ultimate like quarterback's tight end in this class, in my opinion, because wherever you need 5 yards, just like where's Max Klare at, and he's probably sitting in green grass somewhere. So
I wrote down like the third strength I wrote down was exceptional midpoint awareness versus zone coverage. So yeah, I think he does that as well as anyone in this class.
Tremendous player. I think he's going to test well. What does the tracking data kind of look like on?
Oh boy, top speed last year 98th percentile. Average get off yards 80th percentile. He's 80 to 90 in pretty much everything.
Yeah. So. Yep, that's what it's all about. Do you have anything to add on Max Klare before we move on?
I thought the hands were a little bit inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, I think he has the fluidity to get in and out of breaks, but sometimes he would kind of get stuck at the top of routes and couldn't really explode out of the break. I think that's more of a technique issue than like an athletic limitation. But yeah, as far as like what you're going to be asking him to do, I think he's a really clean prospect as just being a vertical F type of player.
Yeah. Speaking of a vertical F type of player, again, most of these guys. This next guy we're talking about has been one of my favorite players in the country for 2 years now. I watched him last spring and I was like, this guy can flat out fly. This guy can flat out move. Again, the Wyoming passing attack was a little anemic, and by a little, that might be generous speaking so last year. And he battled through some injuries earlier in the season, but one of my favorite players in this class, probably my favorite G5 player in general is Wyoming's John Michael Gillenborg. This dude's got a crazy recruiting story too. I don't know if you've ever researched his recruiting story. He was a basketball player his whole life.
You can tell.
Football coach finally convinced him his senior year to go out and play football. It was the COVID year, and he broke his leg. The dude played 3 high school football games and got a Division I offer to Wyoming off of 3 high school football games. Just an unreal athlete. Like when we are talking about like a Mike Gesicki type tight end, this is probably the guy athletic wise that is closest to Mike Gesicki. And again, that's lofty because Mike Gesicki jumped 40 inches plus in the vertical jump and did so at like 6'6", 250. So like Mike Gesicki's a rare athlete, but in terms of like play style projection, comp wise, I think John Michael Gillenborg is the closest tight end we've seen to Mike Gesicki since Mike Gesicki, if that makes sense.
No, I like that. I'm kind of with you. I was watching, I forget how it might've been you posting a cut up, or it might've been Ryan texted him to me, but I remember watching John Michael Gillenborg last year as well. And I liked him as like an early day 3 to late day 2 guy. And yeah, he's my second favorite tight end that I've watched. Just like Max Klare, I mean, the speed and acceleration tracking data is awesome. He's 90th percentile top speed, 97th percentile average deep route speed. He's a real seam stretcher, but then also I think a pretty fluid route runner. Running those blaze outs and stuff. I think that he can be like an NFL team's number 2 receiving weapon pretty early. Can get off of press coverage. He's got good like head fakes and body language to set up his breaks. Compared to some of these guys that are just like fast straight line guys, he's actually a pretty put together route runner and receiving threat. For me, I just worry about like, I wrote that his run block. Wrote that he was a useless run blocker because
he very much is. Yeah,
I didn't really think. I thought there was like no effort. Doesn't really have the physical tools. 31.5-inch arms, I believe, or no, just 31-inch arms. That's first percentile for tight ends, and didn't really have problems. I thought like working through traffic, but that could limit his ability to high point the ball, and then also gives him some issues connecting to blocks in the run game. But yeah, really just like premium receiving weapon with John Michael Gillenborg.
Like legitimate open field chops too. Like legitimate open field speed to like watching that dude run after the catch. He's a gazelle in the open field. Just pulling away from guys. I want to look up one quick piece of data real fast here on Gillenborg before we move on here. Plus 50-50 in contested catch situations as well. So he does have that 31-inch arms, but I think he kind of matches the tape where like, I think he plays through contact pretty well. And even going back to the 2023 season, he's had some really clutch last minute touchdown catches for this Wyoming team. So like, I think he had a game winner in 2023 and a game winner this past season as well. So he's frequently the guy that it seems like they're tabbing, like they're tagging in play calls. Like we need, this is a third and Gillenborg. Did
you say he was your favorite group of five player?
I think so, man. I'm
trying to think. It's hard because when I watch all these players, I feel like I'm watching such a diverse group of schools. And then when I look at my board, I've only watched guys from like the SEC and the Big Ten because it's just all transfers. Like any good G5 guy transfers up. I think it's almost John Michael Gillenborg for me, but I have Emmanuel McNeil Warren, the Toledo safety, just ahead of them. But yeah, Gillenborg's up there.
He rules, man. He rules so much. Also, a little sneak preview. I have an interview set up with him, so I'm very excited about that. Moving on to another talented player that Cal just bled out off of their roster this offseason, along with both of their running backs and their quarterback and a wide receiver and everybody else on their roster. Jack Endries, dude. So my introduction to Jack Endries was charting Fernando Mendoza. Like, obviously I'm a huge Mendoza guy, but like you can't watch Fernando Mendoza without being like, who the hell is that tight end? I do wish Jack Endries' route tree was a little more diverse than like 70% RPO hitches. It's just a bunch of RPO hitch, RPO hitch, RPO hitch, RPO hitch. But really strong through contact, really strong hands. Another one of these tight ends who's a really solid mover in the open field with the football in his hands. He took a screen and go. He ran the wheel route on a screen and go against Miami. I think it was the Miami game. And he just took that thing into the open field and nobody even could get an angle on him. So a really good athlete. I really love the move to Texas. Looking at, I was a big Gunnar Helm guy this past season as well. And looking at the route tree that Gunnar Helm ran and the opportunity that Gunnar Helm had in that offense, even with Quinn Ewers at quarterback, who was less than a stellar quarterback. Like, I think that's an ideal fit for a skill set of Endries to go be that Gunnar Helm heir apparent in that Longhorns offense. I mean, Gunnar Helm was running quarter routes. He was running flats to get the ball out into green grass along the sideline and turning upfield. He was running RPO seams.
Life is a workout, and Smoothie King is here to help you power through. Whether you're grinding out bicep curls or muscling the couch across the living room, crushing morning miles, or sprinting through back-to-back meetings, Smoothie King has fuel to help you maximize your workouts, own your recovery, and elevate your game. Give your body the energy, protein, and power it needs with a lineup of delicious smoothies made to help you conquer your goals. Only at Smoothie King.
Running post. So I think you're really going to see the route tree of Endries really open up at Texas the way that it didn't at Cal. But I think this guy's skill set's awesome.
Yeah, really, really crisp route runner, smart route runner against zone coverage. You mentioned the Miami play. I thought, like, I'm kind of with you where it wasn't as much of a downfield route tree, so I was kind of wondering about his speed, but he had two explosive plays against Miami where he showed his speed pretty definitively, I think. And then 9 of 12 on contested catches last year. Really strong hands over the middle. It was a pleasure getting to rewatch Fernando Mendoza and the way that he works the middle of the field on like third downs. And, watching injuries, I'm like, man, it did always seem like there was some guy coming open, like 3rd and 7, just kind of shading his way into a gap. And that was Jack Andrews.
87. Yep.
Yep. So yeah, I'm a fan of Jack Andrews. I don't really know if there's like big explosive, like game breaking potential with him. Ended up having him ranked 4th on this list. But really like him. I've got a late 4th round grade on him.
I think I have him 3rd actually, but it's close between 3 and 4 here. We're about to talk about 4, who it's really close with. I do want to see because I think Arch and him could have some really good chemistry, because they've got to have a guy. I mean, they've got dudes who could fly down the football field. They've got to have a guy who can make those tough catches over the middle. Right. Kind of like the Gunnar Helm was kind of a glue guy in that Texas offense last year. So very excited to see Jack Andrews in Austin, what he can do there. Dude, I'm glad we're talking about him. Coming up here as our 4th tight end in this episode, Vanderbilt's Eli Stowers, a converted quarterback from Texas A&M to New Mexico to Vanderbilt, kind of went with Diego Pavia from New Mexico to Vanderbilt. 6'4", listed at 235. I haven't looked for verifieds on him yet, but he's obviously a very slender dude. He's clearly a converted he has the build of a quarterback.
The verified measurements, it's 6'0", 240 pounds,
240,
32 3/4 arm length, so 37th percentile, but then a 66th percentile wingspan.
Yeah. So Stowers is another one of those guys, pretty similar to John Michael Gillenborg, who probably falls into that 3rd tier as a blocker. Mm-hmm. He might creep up into that 2nd tier a little bit, but he's trying to block some dudes, and they're just throwing him out of the way. Yeah. And what's more concerning though, and I don't know if you picked up on this, is he's not even on the field on a lot of early downs. He's just flat out not even on the field.
Or if he's on the field, he's they're motioning him out to go block a defensive back or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're running a lot of 12 personnel in early downs, and they're bringing on 2 different tight ends that aren't Eli Stowers. Right. So I think that's a little concerning, but when we're talking about an athlete, dude, this guy's an athlete. And I think what I'm was most pleasantly surprised about is how natural of a catcher of the football he is. Off his frame, extending, he's really got to extend and go get those footballs a lot of times from Diego Pavia. And he just looks like a very natural pass catcher. And then you throw in that I think he's a really fluid athlete, a really explosive athlete. His route running definitely lacks some refinement that's needed. I don't think he stems very well. He definitely doesn't play through contact at the top of his routes really well. Some things like that I have some hesitations on, but for a guy that's been playing tight end for 2-3 years now, he has the high ceiling foundation of a playmaking tight end. And last thing I'll bring up before I let you talk about Stowers for a little bit is he is clearly a guy they manufactured touches for in that offense last year. Right. This is a guy that commanded touches in that Vanderbilt offense. They're throwing little shovel screens to him. They're throwing RPO flats to him. They're doing whatever they can to get him the ball in space and just let him do work. And so I think he transitions from a receiver to a runner really well as well.
Yeah, I would echo a lot of your similar thoughts on Eli Stowers. He was my 5th ranked tight end out of these pretty comfortably. To me, I just thought that the route running was pretty far behind where I would want it to be for a player of his size. At a certain point, it's we're not really drafting this dude to be a blocker. So, being kind of a 0 versus being a 0.5 in the run game, it's whatever in terms of the grade. But yeah, I think the blocking and the ball skills are pretty good, but to me, there was a lack of toughness at the catch point, playing through contact, on 3rd and medium. I do obviously the speed is impossible to miss. One of the best tight ends, probably him or Sadiq, I would say are the best after the catch. And yeah, I mean, I think in a more advanced, translatable NFL role, he could definitely improve his grade, but want to see more detailed route running from him.
For sure. And I think that plays into one other thing that I want to say here is like, I see the speed and the explosiveness as well, but and I think this goes back to playing through contact. I don't see that translate into vertical separation very often. Like
Right.
he makes a really impressive one-handed catch against Georgia Tech, but like the defender's draped all over him. I don't see him like pulling away. And I think it's because he struggles to stack or like at the top of his stems, like he's just getting jammed off of his spot.
Right.
Quite a bit. But I do really like Stowers, and I think there's a role for him at the NFL level. So we're gonna round it out here with a guy that I found really hard to evaluate, mainly because like he hardly has a body of work on tape.
Yeah.
Like he's got a very minimal body of work on tape, and this is Oregon's Kenyon Sadiq. What he does have on tape is really fun. But if you take away the Penn State game, he has like targets that you could count on 3 hands.
Yeah.
Like that's rough to evaluate. But if we and it's summer scouting, so like this is where we can be a little more risky and a little more out there with like taking risks on players. If we're talking about frame and body type, check. Like 100% check. If we're talking about athleticism, check. So like it's a bit of a projection. But Kenyon Sadiq has the ceiling to be the best tight end in this class with a full workload. Now that Terrence Ferguson has graduated and moved on to the NFL, drafted in the 2nd round, like this, I am interested in why they transferred in Jalen Johnson when they already had Kenyon Sadiq. And I know they're going to run a lot of 12, but like that felt a little overlappy skill set wise. But yeah, man. Kenyon Sadiq's a fun player. Just that Penn State game alone, what he's doing in the open field with the football in his hands after the catch is like, yeah, that's a guy that you want to get the
I wonder if it's
frequently.
I wonder if it's the same guy because like he basically hurdled. Let's see, he hurdled this guy, Penn State, number 3 in the open field for a touchdown, and then Max Klare's like best play was against Penn State, and it was 23. Okay. Penn State's got some issues on the back end with these tight ends.
Ankle biting defensive backs. Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, Kenyon Sadiq, I mean, it's a short watch, but it's enjoyable. It's a lot of just like screens and kind of, he's like the 4th read wide open on the backside type of targets. There isn't, precise downfield route running or anything like that. I thought there were spacing issues against zone coverage that I noticed, but you mentioned it. It's just like the frame, the athleticism, what he can do running down the seam after the catch. I think in a more prominent role, I could easily see this guy emerging as tight end 1. And then I had no expectations for him as a blocker. I mean, he looks like Drake London on the field basically, but he competes his ass off in the run game. I don't know which games you watched, but like he's got some performances with like 5 or 6 pancakes, and it's not true inline stuff, but like, double teams with the tackle, getting out in space, use him a lot as kind of the point man on screens and stuff. He plays with that edge where, even though you're still going to need a true wide to handle some of the inline duties, like he can absolutely be a net positive as a blocker, and probably only going to improve as he gets stronger.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. This is a great year for him to see that role as well. Again, Evan Stewart tore his ACL preseason. If you look at Oregon's depth chart in the wide receiver room outside of Evan Stewart, it's a bunch of like 5th or 6th year guys who we were talking about 3 years ago. Like, do you remember Gary Bryant Jr. at USC like 3 years ago? We were like talking about Gary Bryant Jr. Like he's playing for Oregon now. And so like outside of Evan Stewart, like that they're really thin at pass catchers. So Sadiq has the chance to really solidify himself as a dude at Oregon this next season. And I'm really excited for it because again, what is limited on tape is extremely, extremely explosive and fun. And so I think that's a good place to round out these first 5 names of tight ends. Do you have anything else you want to add on any of these guys?
The only other tight end that I had watched was Jack Velling out of Michigan State, who I gave a 7th round grade on. Yeah. So I'll throw that one out there. But no, I mean, I think I don't know how many, if you had to guess now, and obviously we haven't fully gotten into the next group of guys we're going to watch, but like how many top 75 tight ends do you think there are in this class?
One right now.
Yeah.
I think probably Max Klare is it. If you said top 100, I'd probably say 3.
Yeah, I would go like 1.5, just depending on Sadiq.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. I think John Michael Gillenborg does get drafted 3rd round, probably closer to like comp pick range to a team that's like, we just need an F tight end to really round out our offense. And he's like the ideal, like, here you go, man, have fun. Because I mean, how fast do you think John Michael, like, do you think he's going to break 4.55? I think he breaks 4.55.
Yeah, dude. Well, I mean, he had a touchdown. I forget where it was, but or who it was against. Like he was kind of rounding a pursuit angle on the right sideline, and he got up to like 21.5. I mean, he's got real speed. Like I think it would be between him or Max Klare for like who I think is the fastest in this class. But Gillenborg has over 10 pounds on Klare. I mean, he's the only one that we've talked about who's like he's listed at 251. So
yeah.
I could definitely see Klare. Gillenborg. It depends how old he is. And I know like a lot of teams are kind of going to look down on a tight end with 31-inch arms because that is a pretty severe outlier.
Yeah, it is. It is indeed. So I'm going to keep an eye on that for sure. But yeah, man, if you want pass catchers, this is the tight end class for you. If you want guys like, I'm trying to think even last year's class of guys who would throw their body around, and there were some, but I can't think of it off the top of my head because it's late. But yeah, we're gonna dive into 6 more names tomorrow. We'll hit the Georgia duo. We'll hit the Cincinnati guy, the Ball State transfer to Houston. A couple other really fun names here to talk about as well. But I think that's it that we've got this episode of tight ends. So again, we're going to keep trekking through the summer scouting position by position after doing school by school there for a little bit. But this has been a lot of fun so far through corners and through half of tight ends here, James. And again, thanks for stepping in here in the absence of Dalton as well.
Anytime, man. I'm enjoying it.
Awesome. Well, until next time, this has been another episode of the Daft on Draft podcast. Goodbye.